Taoiseach, yesterday we were all given another glimpse, if we needed another one, of the culture that prevailed at RTE under the former Director General and under successive governments. The report by McCann Fitzgerald has found that 10 redundancies under the 2017 Voluntary Exit Programme did not satisfy the requirements of a redundancy within the meaning of the Redundancy Payment Acts, and that, as a result, it may be the case that RTE should have applied a tax exemption, should not have applied the tax exemption on the €223,000 it made in exit payments to 10 individuals. We also learned that the exit package of RTE's former Chief Financial Officer was not approved by RTE's Executive Board, revelations that I have called on the Revenue Commissioners to investigate in full. And it was only last week, Taoiseach, since the last report in relation to this fiasco around Toy Story the musical, something which was also not approved by the Executive Board. These are damning findings, Taoiseach, and the public are absolutely sick to the teeth of all of this. And it's little wonder that payments of the TV licence have fallen off a cliff. It is vital that the public trust RTE, but trust takes time to build and it needs to be earned. People are sick of the squandering of public money, sick of the lack of accountability, with no one held to account. And it seems the only people who are being held to account are the 60 people that are being brought before the courts every day for non-payment of the TV licence. And what a contrast, Taoiseach. One rule for RTE executives and another rule for the taxpayers. Public service broadcasting is essential, and it needs to be funded properly. It needs to be independent, rigorous and trusted. And that is why the current situation is untenable. It is allowing a very bad situation to deteriorate. And Taoiseach, your government needs to stop dithering and the need to act. You have had a report now on your desk since 2021, 3 years now, with recommendations to abolish the licence fee and to replace that revenue with Exchequer finance. I want you to act on that recommendation. Government bickering and indecision is making a bad decision worse. The public wants decisive action on this, Taoiseach, and they want that action now. Sinn Féin, for our part, would abolish the TV licence and instead fund RTE and other public service media through Exchequer funding. This is in line, this is what was recommended by the expert group on the Future of Media Commission report that was sent to you in July of 2021. Such an approach would end the farcical and often cruel pursuit of hard-pressed individuals through the courts for non-payment, sometimes resulting in their imprisonment for a couple of hours. So removal of the licence fee and a move to replace that with direct Exchequer funding would put RTE on a sustainable financial footing. It would allow for rigorous financial oversight by the Controller and Auditor General, and it would ensure financial scandals that we've seen in RTE are a thing of the past, never to be tolerated and never to happen again. So none of this, and I know that you have suggested that this would impact on RTE's editorial independence, but none of this will, because the Commission's report is very clear and they make recommendations in relation to that and how multi-annual funding would be provided. But let's just remember, nobody suggests that TG Cahir has been interfered with. TG Cahir is Exchequer funding, it is not funded by the licence fee, and there is no suggestion that its editorial independence is in any way jeopardised as a result of that. So I'm asking you, Taoiseach, to stop dithering, to stop delaying, to make a decision, to scrap the licence fee, to replace that financing with Exchequer funding and fulfil the recommendations of the Commission's report.
Could I say that at the outset I would share the Deputy's dismay at the unfolding events within RTE and the clear absence of proper governance in respect of a whole range of issues which have been well articulated now by various reports and indeed in this House and before many Oireachtas reports. And the Grant Thornton report is absolutely unacceptable in terms of what it reveals, not the report itself, but what it reveals is unacceptable in terms of the absence of the RTE executive, for example, sanctioning redundancies and redundancies happening where in fact there was no suppression of jobs, and we had the situation with the toy show equally shocking in terms of 2 million loss, which was at that time equivalent to the deficit at the time. I would say that the government shares that annoyance and anger, and I do believe there are further reports coming. And I believe those should be subject to further examination by the relevant Oireachtas committee, particularly our media committee in the Oireachtas, and public accounts will no doubt seek to have further sessions in respect of reports that are to come in terms of report on governance. The situation is concerning. That said, I believe the RTE licence fee should be paid. I don't accept the protestations that it shouldn't be paid. It should be paid. I think public service broadcasting is extremely important, particularly in the world of social media. And I have articulated very genuine concerns about full exchequer funding to media generally, because remember, any new system of funding will not be just for RTE. It will be for all public service content in all media, including local radio and national television. There are two issues with it that I would identify, and they haven't actually been addressed by the Commission, and I spoke to the Commission about it afterwards when the report was published. One is the question of independence, and it's a very legitimate question. Sinn Féin's instincts in terms of media have been fairly well demonstrated by your very serial suing of media in this country. And I'll just take a quotation. The number of legal actions that have been filed by Sinn Féin members points to a coordinated campaign against the media in Ireland, unquote. Those are not my words, but those of a joint letter signed by 15 individuals and international press freedom organisations. And in November 2023, these freedom of expression advocates warned Deputy MacDonald that the spate of defamation cases being taken by Sinn Féin TDs is having a chilling effect on democracy. And the signatories to the letter included the Daphne Caruana Galizia Foundation. So they are very, many people would feel your behaviour in that respect as a party and a coordinated behaviour is one that is suppressing the media. Now, irrespective of who's in government into the future, it is a legitimate question that when it sounds great, we'll pay all the bills, full exchequer funding, but it means that any government into the future has a control over Irish media that I'm clear would not be a healthy one. And even if it was about just the scare or allocation of resources in terms of health coming first, social protection coming first, housing coming first, or whatever, and in the normal estimate cycle where pressures come on for various expenditures, and there are finite resources no matter how well the economy is doing. There is always the potential for any government to put the pressure on, squeeze, reduce the funding, use the leverage with a view to controlling the message. And that's a view that people think that Sinn Féin is at in terms of things.
I never heard you utter a word when your former colleagues in your parliamentary party, Colm Keaveney, for example, who served with you and sued the media and sued a journalist in the Irish Independent when he was in your parliamentary party. What about Frank O'Rourke, who's suing the media? John O'Donoghue, the former Can Corley, suing the media in Kerry. What about former Senator Larry Butler? And that's just me Googling in the last 5 minutes. So don't start this nonsense. Don't start this nonsense, right? Now, the Commission, before there was even a scandal in RTE, the Commission recommended getting rid of the TV licence and replacing it with exchequer funding. The Commission looked at all of this. They looked at how you ensure independence. They talked about multi-annual funding that is actually voted on in relation to the Dáil. They looked at all of these issues. You've decided to dismiss that. You say you want a universal fee applied to every single household, another household charge. The Commission are very clear that that is not the approach that we should be taking. TG Ceathair is not licence fee funded. It is exchequer funded. Are you suggesting that there is interference with the editorial control in terms of TG Ceathair? The reality is people have lost faith in RTE. People are being summoned before the court at a rate of 60 per day for non-payment of the TV licence. Tánaiste, it is time to implement the Commission's recommendations of 3 years ago. Scrap the TV licence, replace it with exchequer funding and put in place the multi-annual funding that we need RTE and other public service content media to actually make sure that they can thrive in the future.
Well, again, Deputy, I quoted reputable, independent people who monitor freedom of the press and freedom of the media. And Ireland enjoys one of the highest on the World Index in terms of freedom of the media because of government behaviours. But the bottom line is, from your party leader down, you have been systemic in your legal actions against the media, which is having a chilling effect. And I think that needs to be put on the record when you're advocating a system that, in my view, would potentially have a negative impact on media in Ireland into the future and on its independence and indeed on its freedom. And it's a fair point I am making, and the kind of populist response that you have articulated, and it's pure populism. Abolish all. And by the way, when I mentioned universal to replace the licence fee with a reduced universal fee, 70% were paying the RT. That was advocated by the Oireachtas committees. Successive Oireachtas committees on media advocated that.
Thank you.
Not just my idea. The Oireachtas committee did it. We supported it in opposition. We didn't play the populist card that everything can be paid.
Le wardakiokta Tomig Bogarai Guji and Darik Esh.
You need to talk to each other and come to a decision.
Out of respect to the next speaker, can we please? Thank you.